What's up, beautiful people? Today I thought I would tell you a little bit about one of my favorite poets, and his name is Frank O'Hara. That's this dude right here. Oh, yeah, Frank O'Hara. Frank O'Hara is an amazing poet who lived in New York City and other places when he was younger, but mainly in New York City during his adult life. And he wrote poems during the 1950s and the early part of the 1960s. And so, one of the things that I love about Frank O'Hara, among many things, is the fact that he's very conversational in his poetry. Um, ooh, he doesn't have a lot of fancy language, even though there is some in certain poems. But most of his best poetry and the things that will kind of affect you emotionally or affect me emotionally are when he is just like talking about his day in a very artful way, or he talks about some of his favorite people. A lot of his poems are occasion poems that he wrote um, in remembrance of hanging out with his friends. His friends were his whole world. Um, his family didn't really accept him that much, mainly because he was homosexual, and during the 1950s and 60s, it still wasn't really widely accepted. Um, and it's not necessarily widely accepted here, depending on where you or now, depending where you live. But in America back then, it was far more taboo of a subject, and so his friends became everything to him. He found people with similar interests, um, and some of his best friends were either very famous artists and painters like Willem de Kooning and Jackson Pollock and guys like that. But he also was friends with some of the most influential poets in America at that time, including John Ashbery, who has won almost every award known to man. He was friends with Kenneth Koch. He was friends with Allen Ginsberg and just a number of other poets and really amazing artists of that time. And a lot of them credited him for their success because he was also someone who was super stoked on his friends and like hyping them up. He was like the ultimate hype man. And I find something very similar in my personality where I love being the hype man for my friends. Some of my friends call me the cheerleader, and found a very like kindred spirit with Frank O'Hara in that way because he's just so ebullient and in praise of his friends. And there's a bunch of poems that he's written about his painter friends, Larry Rivers, Willem de Kooning, um, uh, Jane Hirschfield, and a bunch of other poets and writers who were his friends that he just loved to the ends of the earth. And um, I also love the fact that he hated rules. Um, Frank O'Hara didn't have a very good relationship with his dad or his family in general, but especially his dad. And so his anti authoritarian streak kind of comes through in his poetry. And it wasn't that he didn't know the rules of poetry. It's just that over time he learned the rules of poetry, and in his formative years when he was first starting writing out poetry, he would learn a certain form of poetry and then write imitations or exercises in those forms. So he was also a student of poetry, but as the student of poetry, he learned the rules so that he could break them. And I don't know if he was the first, but he was definitely one of the like Walt Whitman was probably the first, but he is one of the first poets to really kind of enter the spirit of like free verse and rule breaking in American poetry. And at the time when he was doing his thing, uh, American poetry had become very uh, ruled. Like there was like a lot of rules to it and meter, and to be academic and to be taken seriously, people thought that you had to write, rhyming couplets or this type of thing. And Frank O'Hara just kind of blew that out of the water. And he's a very exciting poet to read, and he infuses the energy and and bustling nature of New York and puts it in his poetry. So he was influenced and inspired by the excitement and energy that happens and exists and just kind of like enters you in a big city. And I also find that kind of inspiration. So I relate to Frank O'Hara in many different ways, and he oh, I had another thing that I was gonna say. Anyway, so yeah, I think you guys should just go check out Frank O'Hara. One of his books, or a poem from one of his books, was featured in the TV show Mad Men. The poem is called Mayakovsky, and it's in his book Meditations in an Emergency. And so, yeah, I think you guys should just go check it out. It's really awesome. He's one of my favorite poets, and he's one of the poets that when I'm feeling kind of uninspired or stuck, I will return to time and again. And like anytime I crack open his book, I just see a passage that just like floors me, and then kind of reorients me and reminds me of what a poem can do and a poem can be and what a poem can say. And so, yeah, I think you guys should just go check out Frank O'Hara. This dude right here. He's a bad mamma jamma. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope you watched it all the way through. If not, it's totally chilling. And yeah, I'm just here to share my enthusiasm of people and poets and artists, but especially poets, that you can check out, and even better, poets that you can check out who might encourage you to open yourself up and express yourself through words, because that's the main thing I'm trying to do here, is get people to express themselves, because the opposite of depression is expression, as a friend of mine once said. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you, Frank, and thank you, beautiful people. I appreciate you.